First rule of Fight Club is, you do not talk about Fight Club.
I was going to rip his heart out. I'm the best ever. I'm the most brutal and vicious and most ruthless champion there's ever been.
Conor McGregor is going to blank Khabib when you guys meet each other.
Stomp on his head as he's unconscious.
Get up, you son of a bitch! Mickey loves you.
I promise I'll work so hard.
God, this is a mistake already.
Fast! Last night I cut the light off in my bedroom, hit the switch, was in the bed before the room was dark.
One crazy his way back. One nods as if to say, come on.
But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
Greetings, true believers. Greeting, minions. Welcome in. I'm Ed Berliner. Thanks so much for joining us for a very special edition of The Man in the Arena. Special indeed because finally we are stepping into the arena. As weekly, we hope to bring you the latest in fighting, boxing, people arguing, people stepping on each other's heads while they're unconscious. And guess what? It's not going to be in Washington, D.C., which is going to be even more entertaining than anything else. I know that's exactly what you were thinking. We have a COVID-19 disaster brewing in Iowa, and it's all part of boxing. We have an amazing event that hopefully will be coming up soon. And the one man who is almost single-handedly saving boxing here during the pandemic in America. And a little bit later on, I invite you to stick around for something very special, depending on whether or not you like the word with the T in it or not. It is the Hawaiian Nightmare, which we are going to get in just a little bit later on. But that in and of itself is all part of what we will do, plus your comments as we are here on Facebook Live and YouTube Live. We invite you to join us as we roll through the show. And don't forget, the show will later be heard on all of the major audio podcast platforms. All you have to do is, actually, if you want to pick your platform, go to edberliner.com, go to Programs, and pick Man in the Arena Podcast. And it will show you exactly where you can link to and then get your podcast there. Or you can go to the YouTube channel, or you can just sit there and make cartoon drawings and everybody is happy by the time we're done. Let's get on with it. There is only one man that I always turn to when it comes to speaking about boxing, and he is the reason why we are dubbing this special edition of the shows Ringside, because he hosts Randy's Ringside along with Jerry Cooney on Sirius XM. He is a noted author in boxing, which, by the way, just in case we're going to get to it here, let's make sure that I point out that he is a noted author, as a matter of fact, because his book, and you're going to give me a second here because I'm going to make sure that somebody brings it up here. I want to find it specifically. I want to make sure we get it, and I don't have it right here. No, wait a minute. Okay, it's sitting right here. Let's go ahead and get it in just 1 second because, okay, I'll go ahead and I'll just keep dancing until we find it here because there it is, Glove Affair, which is taking the country by storm. It is his story of boxing and a life filled with boxing. So it is once again a pleasure to welcome back the former athletic commissioner of the state of New York, my good buddy, Randy Gordon. The Commish joins us. Commish, nice to see you are there, fully prepared for the pandemic, my friend. Nicely done.
Thank you very much. What do I need this now? What do I need this?
Here. Wait a minute. I'll let you. Did you feel that?
No, I actually didn't. I guess I don't need it, but this is nuts. And by the way, you do a great. I never knew you could. There we go. I never knew you could tap dance as well as you do. You did a great.
Are you kidding? One of these days, I'll tell you the story about working for Sports News Network in the mid-'90s. And if any of my friends are watching this and they remember the story, we were in a facility on Long Island. As a matter of fact, you probably drove right past it today because I know that you are in Oyster Bay.
Yeah.
And in Roslyn, if you go in through Roslyn and there's the clock tower in Roslyn, if you're going towards Oyster Bay and you make a left, you go down what used to be a set of industrial warehouses. It's now very big, and actually the warehouse is still there. That's where Sports News Network was in the mid-'90s, and I was on the air getting ready to go on the air. We're counting down the clock. There's a monstrous thunderstorm outside. Lightning, rain, you hear it, and it's pounding against the roof. And all of a sudden, on the desk, the anchor desk that I'm on, drip, drip, drip. It started to rain on the anchor desk. I'm screaming. The producer doesn't hear me. The director doesn't hear me because they're getting ready for the show. The cameraman is a great friend of mine named Keith Barbaria, who is now the top technical wizard for NBC in Boston. And he's there. And he can't get a hold of anybody, and he sees it too. And we come in, the Open comes up for News Sport. It was called Scoreboard Central. Did the Open, here it was, and I come on, and it's pouring. It is literally pouring. And I'm just sitting there when they're bringing me up, and I go, well, if I was Fred Astaire, I could dance all night, kids, and I'll bet you the rain would look just as good. I should have said Gene Kelly, but Fred Astaire came to my mind because that would have been the rain. But here we are, and I am dancing for what probably turned out to be a good 60 to 90 seconds until somebody in the control room was able to call Master Control, and they were able to start another program so that we could then continue. Something would be on the air. It wouldn't just be a big black hole. We didn't go on the air the rest of the night because they had to come in the next day and fix the roof. But that's a long way to tell you that, dude, when you work in television and radio, you learn to dance, man.
Yep. Couldn't you take the desk and move it over to the left or right? Or...
No. Yeah, right. It was about a 500-pound desk. I'm sitting there, and I'm sitting behind. You know that. You've seen the desk, but I know you're just being kidding here. But I wish I could. But there was a computer monitor, and back then we had the monitors that actually were about the size of two-bedroom houses. And it's raining on the computer as well, and everything's getting wet, and it's just it was a wonderful time indeed. And somewhere the actual videotape of that exists, and I believe I have it. There's only one copy, and the executive producer gave it to me, and he says he destroyed every other copy. So I got to find it sooner or later. Okay, we got a lot of boxing to talk about here. And by the way, don't forget, if you want to, you can drop us comments on Facebook and on YouTube as well, because we are monitoring. We're watching as we go through the day. But we're going to start out with what is happening in Iowa coming up in the next couple of days. And as you see the Commish's head shake back and forth, you can only imagine where we're going with this, because it is an astounding affront to the health of human beings. It's another affront. Randy, here's the problem. When I say that boxing has a black eye, of course, how many times have we said that? Thousands of times. This, to me, is one of the worst cases I've ever seen. And before we start talking about it, I want to play everybody the promo that is being used to promote this fight. And if you're a fight fan, you're going to recognize at least one of the names, maybe two of them. And then we'll come back and we'll talk about it a little bit more. Okay.
I'm Pat Miletich, former UFC champion, UFC Hall of Famer.
Michael, second to none, two-time world boxing champion.
We're fighting basically because we want to unite the Quad Cities.
I just now want to see the people throughout my community here in the Quad City area, getting along with black people, white people, Mexican people, Asiatic people, no matter. Get along with people no matter who you are.
You know, obviously, what the country's going through right now, I mean, it's ridiculous, you know, the violence and people not respecting each other. It's very unfortunate.
I'm hoping this fight can bring people in my community, people throughout the world together. Let's unite, let's do it together, because, you know, it takes teamwork to make the dream work.
Michael and I aren't fighting each other because we dislike each other or we want to hurt each other. We're fighting each other because we respect each other. I respect him as a warrior and as a man.
Pat's a legend in MMA. I'm a legend in boxing.
Michael Nunn being the best pound-for-pound boxer in the world for 4 years. I mean, the guys like Sugar Ray Leonard, Roberto Duran, Hearns, those guys, they didn't even want to fight him. He was so good.
It's something that Quad City fans deserve to see two legendary fighters from two different societies get in the ring and see who the best really is.
You know, I say hats off to Michael Nunn because he's allowing me to kick, and most boxers would never do that.
We're getting up in age, and it's a most anticipated match.
We know that we're going to put on a show. We're both very competitive, and we're going to get after it. This is going to be a spectacle. This isn't just a sporting event. There are going to be incredible fights on the undercard, young and up-and-coming fighters who deserve this shot.
I know y'all will be there live and in color.
Be there, you guys. Saturday, July 18th at the Mississippi Valley Fairgrounds. Michael Nunn versus Pat Miletich.
It's going to be a spectacle, all right. 57-year-old Michael Nunn. Randy, I know that you've talked about this on Randy's Ringside. You've written about it on your Facebook page as well. And now we get a chance to dig into this. As the former New York State Athletic Commissioner and somebody who knows everybody in boxing and knows every fight that's coming up, when you heard about that and then started to dig into this and finding out that they are going to have this event without masks, without social distancing, and it's a sham of a fight to begin with, what was your first reaction?
that somebody's got something wrong, that somebody doesn't know what they're talking about, because there is no fight card in America where there are fans. The fans are just not allowed in boxing right now. And look, Top Rank is putting on fights in Las Vegas and Thursday, and they're not on. They're without fans. You could watch it on television, but there are no fans in the arena. They are doing it with the strictest of medical protocols. The promoter, Bob Arum, has made sure that the Nevada State Athletic Commission, they have said we will not have it any other way than except with strict medical protocols. And they are doing it at the MGM Grand in Vegas. And they have an area, tunnel, it's called the Bubble. Nobody goes in there unless they've been medically approved. Other than that, you don't walk into this bubble. No fans, no media, just the fighters and the essential people, the TV people, the State Athletic Commission, and the promoters. That's it. Nobody else. Nowhere in this country are there any fans at any fight card. In fact, there really are fight cards, and any fight card there's no fans there except for this Saturday night, when they are, as you said, opening up the doors to fans coming in anywhere from about 5,000 to 10,000, and none of them wearing masks. It's absolutely an incredible thought. And Ed, I know you said boxing. Well, this is not. I think
it's really unfair to say that. Well, it is right. Unfair, and it's not. I mean, it is an exhibition, and they are putting an MMA fighter against a boxer. But still, I think that this comes down to where people will look again and go, it's the facepalm thing with boxing. Is this really what you're trying to shovel us, the bovine excrement of an exhibition with a 57-year-old guy who's well past his prime? I mean, Randy, come on. This has to speak poorly to boxing. In even though they may not be a part of it, and we'll get to the promoter in a minute, but this is another black eye in the sport of boxing.
Well, of course it is. But take a look. There's several layers here. It's not just boxing. It's not just a boxing promoter. It's politics. It's the government. It's the State Athletic Commission. There's a whole medical thing going on here, and it's all blended together into this one fight card that America is now turning its eyes to. They're actually putting this card, I don't know where you can see, it's going to be on pay-per-view. They're charging $25 for it. I wouldn't give you 25 cents for it. And you heard the two competitors. One is former champion Michael Nunn, who is 57 years old, has not fought in 18 years. And the other is 52-year-old former UFC welterweight champion Pat Miletich. And he was saying, there's a great undercard with a lot of up-and-coming fighters. There's one guy on the card who happens to be about 12-1, and guess what? He's fighting a guy who's 1-18. 1-18. He's been knocked out 12 times.
Wait a minute. I have to see if I could excuse myself for a few moments, but I won't. I'd have to go find a big jar of tomato sauce.
And there we go. I mean, and there's another guy on the card. He's, I think, 1 win and 12 losses. And in all 12 losses, he's been stopped in every single one of them. This is a pay-per-view card. It is junk. I know that if I was offered this card when I was commissioner in New York, you got to either thumbs up, thumbs down. I give it thumbs down all the way. And I'm sure that any other commissioner worth his weight or her weight would do the same thing. And you know what? In Iowa, this is where the politics come in, the ugly politics.
Let me set the stage there, because for our viewers watching on YouTube and Facebook, you'll be able to see this. For our listeners who are taking us in via the podcast, I'm going to read it so that you get it as well. But a great friend of ours, Lyle Fitzsimmons, Fitz, everybody knows him. He writes for Boxing Scene magazine. Fitz is one of the best, and he's probably watching today, I believe he is. He's one of the best boxing writers in the country right now. Always has been. He's been on my shows over the years. Now, he wrote in Boxing Scene a little bit about what you're talking about here, which makes this incredulous to think about as well. He writes, Franklin DeToy, who's been a deputy commissioner in Iowa for more than 10 years, said he'll step down if promoter Monty Cox goes on as scheduled. Quote, I can't speak for other commission members, but I am so ashamed of how this has unfolded. To me, it proves our commission has failed to safely ensure the safety, integrity, and well-being of not only fighters, but also fans, he said. If this event happens, I'm resigning my position because obviously our commission has lost its way. Before I go on any further and read more of what Fitz writes about this, Randy, that's a pretty strong statement, but I think that speaks to exactly what you're saying. Here's a guy who's in charge, who's supposed to be the man that you go to who says that thumbs down or that thumbs up, and he's saying, screw you guys. He's doing an Eric Cartman from South Park. Screw you guys, I'm going home. And he's right.
Well, let me just, a little correction, a little tweak here.
Okay.
He's not the one who gives the thumbs up. He's one of the top workers. A deputy commissioner will do a lot of the paperwork. He'll assign the judges and so forth and so on. He's the guy that you put in charge. When you're the commissioner, I would always have a deputy commissioner. Okay, and I'd say, George, you're going to be the one who runs the show tonight. Any problems, I'm going to be at ringside. You come to me. But you're going to run the show tonight. The commission in Iowa is basically a non-show. I don't know if they want to call him chairperson, whatever, but this person, his name is Rod Roberts. He is the former Iowa State Labor Commissioner, and he's a Republican all the way, and he was put onto his position also with the commissioner, because with the Labor Commission, they don't actually have a full-time commission like Jersey does and Nevada does and New York, California, and Pennsylvania. And Rod Roberts is basically the unseen voice of the commission. There's a guy by the name of Joe Walsh, who's the executive director, as honest can be, and he's just like the guy we were reading his statement, Franklin DeToy. And apparently, Joe Walsh has turned the show down. Deputy Commissioner DeToy also said this is ridiculous. But political pressure has been put on, and Rod Roberts, apparently with word from up above, from the governor's office, from Kim Reynolds, said yes to it. And despite the fact the governor, Kim Reynolds, has been stopping events where there's crowds gathering, like a 4th of July fireworks display, a parade, counting, all of that, yet because of whatever kind of political pressure was put on by Monty Cox, the promoter, to Rod Roberts, it was decided that this fight can go on, fans can come in, and you know that they're not going to be wearing masks in Iowa. This is an absolute travesty. Problem. This is everything combined. This is the ugliness of politics. I think it's politics at its absolute worst.
Let's go back and get a little more from Fitz on this, because I want to make sure we finish this for everybody, because his article pretty much nails a lot of what's going on here. DeToy's career-changing issue, and again, this is the deputy commissioner, isn't solely with the idea of a 57-year-old fighting a 52-year-old in a sport in which neither have competed professionally. And it's not only with the idea that the event could take place in front of thousands of people with no mandates for mask wearing, etc. Instead, he said, it's a combination of those things and more. DeToy said the event, announced earlier this year and subsequently delayed, was called off last month after he consulted with outgoing Executive Commissioner Joe Walsh, who was already planning to step down after 13 years. He said that decision didn't sit well with Cox, whom he said went straight to the office of Governor Kim Reynolds. Back to your point. Soon after, DeToy said the commission's new leader, Rod Roberts, gave approval for the event under pressure from the governor's office. The governor's office did not reply to a request for comment in time for publication. DeToy said he chatted with Nunn in February and had to help him in and out of a ring at an event because of the ex-champ's bad knees. Militech, meanwhile, has competed in several ultramarathons and, in DeToy's estimation, could still beat a majority of MMA fighters thanks to his powerful legs. He said the event is being sold to the public as a matchup of competitive legends, but said Cox has claimed elsewhere that neither of them will be heard. To me, that's a red flag, DeToy said. It's an exhibition. We're not going to hurt each other. We're going to paw each other. By the way, Lyle Fitzsimmons, again, great job doing that article for Boxing Magazine. And we'll get him on the show real soon, I think. But it's not only, you're right. This is the governor's office allowing it to happen because the governor is basically saying, don't worry about masks and COVID-19. If everybody gets sick and dies, I really don't care because I'm following a political agenda, which we're seeing in a lot of states right now. These morons, these idiots, these knuckleheads, these empty-headed brain cells are basically allowing it to happen. And you have people being put at risk, which is not about what sports is supposed to be every single time out. It's supposed to be about keeping everybody safe. But Randy, if you're a commissioner of athletics and boxing, and if you're doing this, and if the governor overrides you, what the hell can you do? Aren't your hands basically tied? The promoter goes right to the governor and says,
what can you do? You really can't do anything. You could try to talk to the governor. Now, remember, I was never in this position. And the guys that I'm going to tell you about, the current commissioner, the longtime commissioner of two states, one in Pennsylvania, Greg Serb, one in Jersey, Larry Hazard. Then we've got Vegas, we've got Bob Bennett, we've got Andy Foster in California. None of these guys have ever had to deal with their governor saying, I know you said no to this, but you're going to do this. Because when the governor puts you in charge, if you're the traffic commissioner, handle traffic. If you're the boxing commissioner, you handle boxing. You handle combat sports. But for the governor then to jump in and tell Rod Roberts, whom she appointed, I believe back in February, that this show was going to go on. Now, I don't know what his feeling, whether he felt it shouldn't go on, but the word came from Kim Reynolds' office. You put the show on. Roberts gave it that thumbs up. The show not only is on, which is just an awful show with a whole bunch of losers on the undercard. I told you about the 1-18, 12 guy who all 12 losses, everyone was knocked out. Then you've got this 4-round bout that they're a clash of the Titans or something. Again, Michael Nunn hasn't fought in 18 years. He was away for about 16 years for selling drugs.
Yes.
You know what? If you listen to Michael, he got railroaded. Maybe he did, but he did say he was selling drugs. According to all reports, he did. He went to court and was tried, was convicted, went away for 16 years. The fact is he hasn't fought since 2002 in a kickboxing match. He doesn't know anything about kickboxing.
Well, that's just it.
Like you said,
I mean, look, we don't want to take anything. We'll back up a second here. I don't want to take anything away from Michael Nunn because in his prime, Michael Nunn was an excellent fighter. Was he one of the greatest? No, not in my estimation. He was a good boxer. He was a good fighter. And as people who are watching right now, and people who are watching on our channel right now on YouTube and on Facebook can see, I'm running a few of the highlights here. I mean, he's absolutely is a fighter worth talking about. But he's 57 years of age, for crying out loud. We're not talking about a guy who's just basically, coming out of his prime here. And I think you probably said it best, Randy. He knows nothing about kickboxing. And this is going to be a fawning, pawing fight, which people are going to pay $25 for, and they're going to come out of it thinking, oh, gee, I got to see Michael Nunn. No, you didn't. You got to see a shadow of Michael Nunn. You didn't get to see the boxer himself. And to me, look, everybody's allowed to make a living, Randy. We know that a lot of boxers have come back over the years, and they've decided to try and make a buck here and there. I don't begrudge anybody doing that. No. But it still comes down to the fact that there has to be people in charge, people in authority, who have to be the ones who say, this is bovine excrement that we're dropping on the canvas here, and we've got to stop that. Having said that, though, Randy, you know the sport much better than I do. I've been around it a long time as well. This isn't going to stop. I mean, especially when you start to put the politics involved in this right now, and you have a Republican governor who wants to make sure that the Republican side of things, let's go ahead and let's just paint it as it is here, that the Republican side of things, we need to open up business and we need to get people out there and we need to stop being scared of COVID-19. There's people dying. And there's people still getting sick. And for the life of me, I just don't understand the lack of brain power behind it, Randy.
Neither do I. And it really makes no sense. Friends of mine in Iowa that there are sports bars, and this is
great. That's going to be even better.
That a guy, I think it's even called bar. He has everybody in the bar. They've bought and all over Twitter saying that he knows people. He said, "How much do you want to bet me I'm not going to get COVID?" And he will give them odds and everything else, and he will get a crowd after crowd. Said, "See, I don't have anything." They are going to turn out. It's unbelievable. They will the world. Listen, this is all a fraud. There's nothing to this. That people catch colds in the summer. People catch colds in the winter. The flu round, some people get it, some people don't. More than that, and you're blowing it out of proportion. And I think they're going to do a sold-out event because Michael Nunn, who's from Davenport, and Pat Miletich, who's from Davenport, are two of the most famous athletes ever to come out of there. Now they're going against each other in a kickboxing match, like you said. What does Michael Nunn? It takes years to learn proper kickboxer, and he's 57 years old. God bless him that he's getting in shape. But again, back, I think it was in February, he could barely get into and out of the ring. His knees are so shot.
He's an old guy. He's a beaten-up boxer, for crying out loud. He's got nothing left in the tank. Let's just be honest here. This is a complete joke, but I think what you said is true. They'll sell it out. People will show up because they'll be able to say, I got to see Michael Nunn. Hell, you might see Michael Nunn have a heart attack and drop dead at this point. But what bothers me more than anything else is the fact that we're putting all these people at risk. And here's the other thing, Randy, that kind of gets lost in all this. Supposedly, this exhibition was put together to help bring the Quad Cities together because of all the racial strife in America today and trying to pull people in and say, come on, we're all one big city. We're all one big community. It's being done. The heart is in the right place, but it's not being executed well because it's being covered up by this, which leads me then to the next issue with you. Who's the promoter on this? And who's the guy making the money and basically going to scap away with everybody's bucks by the time it's over? Because if you want to go to somebody, let's talk about the promoter who puts this on. The jerk who decides all he's going to do is try to nail some more bucks from the stupid in putting a fight together like this. Let's place the blame where it needs to be.
Promoter, I don't care who it is. The promoter in this case is Monty Cox. Promoters are out there for several reasons. One, they're a business guy. They're trying to make money for themselves. And they can tell you that we are here to do it for your interest, for your viewing interest and everything else. They want to make money. I don't know what the contract is that Michael Nunn signed or Miletich. I don't know how much money they're getting or the other fighters on the card, but a promoter promotes his shows. And of course, they're promoting this as all these up and coming prospects. This is but that's what these I don't know what Monty Cox did to get to Rod Roberts, excuse me, the head of the commission, who was appointed again by the governor, Kim Reynolds. I don't know what Monty Cox did, what political juice he has. But Monty Cox actually has himself a little bit of a record, too. He was arrested back in the day for, and I believe you can Google this, and it's on there for, I don't know, I'm not sure whether it was a money laundering thing or whatever.
Oh, shocker.
I mean, he did some time. Here it is. He's back out there. I have sent him Facebook messages and texts. Come on my show on Sirius XM with Jerry Cooney on Friday, this Friday, a day before the fight. And let's talk about this. Promote the fight. Because no matter how we argue, we're going to be talking about it. Don King once told me, Randy Gordon, I don't care what you say to me. Say bad things. Just say things.
It's the old story. There's no such thing as bad publicity. And certainly in boxing, we've learned that over the decades.
Of course. So I want Monty Cox to come on the card, this clash of the titans that he is putting on and giving to the people of Davenport while there's this pandemic going on. And he'll tell us, there's no pandemic. And you're wearing masks. Guaranteed. People will walk in there wearing masks. But the second it gets going, it's going to be like this.
Yep.
Mask off.
Well, there's nobody there basically to hold them to it. There's no enforcement whatsoever that'll go on. So, see, and I guess you and I fall on different sides of the coin here because I understand, and there is that side where when you have something as egregiously bad as this and as egregiously nearly greedy and evil as this, if you will, in many ways, you'd love to have the promoter on. I don't want to have him on. I mean, I could, if the promoter were to come on this show with the two of us here, or if I were to interview him single-handedly, I'll leave that guy crying, screaming, and wailing on the ground in about 2 minutes. He will be in shreds by the time I finish with him because this is greed. This is greed.
He would say to you, he would counter that the way a lot of these people do who are countering the whole thing about the coronavirus, that these numbers that you're being fed are not true. And that's what you're going to get.
And on that note, let's move on to something a little more positive because, quite frankly, this comes down to other fights that we've looked at, and I tell people, if you waste your money on it, hey, it's your money. You go right ahead.
Yeah.
But to see a beaten-up, bedraggled 57-year-old Michael Nunn against a 52-year-old UFC fighter, I can think of a lot better things to do with $25. There's a great, large pizza somewhere that has everything on it and a six-pack of my favorite IPA that I can do for $25. So there you go. I can do that and be a whole lot happier. You mentioned Don King a moment ago. Let's talk about Bob Arum here because if there is one guy who is single-handedly keeping boxing alive here in the COVID-19 summer, it is Bob Arum. And he struck the deal with ESPN. He's got fights. You mentioned it, how he's doing everything socially correct, distanced. He's making sure that the fighters are tested. And now he has what could possibly be, what certainly, if the fight comes off, is going to be an absolutely great fight. Let's learn a little bit more about the fighters, hear from one of them, and then we'll come back and talk on the other side.
Loma has been worthy of all the hype.
There's no other fighter that Loma has fight that is like me. Name one.
This kid has all the skills in the world.
It's very funny. What the man? He's nothing in the boxing now.
Now, the showdown with Vasily Lomachenko will happen.
The tale of the tape between Loma and Lopez. Does this mean we actually have a fight coming up? IBF lightweight champ versus the WBO champ, the number one pound-for-pound fighter in the world, Lopez Lomachenko, was aiming for May 30th before the pandemic, put on ice. Now talk of a potential early fall, late summer showdown. Earlier tonight, the outrageous and always entertaining Teofimo Lopez was with our Max Kellerman. Here he is discussing what Bob Arum told him about the plans.
I know that Bob's been working on trying to have at least a few fans out there, a couple thousand fans out there. And I think that's the only issue that we're having right now. With a fight with this magnitude of this type of fight, I mean, is definitely one that needs to have fans. So I understand where he's coming from with it.
The new target date remains September 19th, but you heard Teofimo refer to Allegiant Stadium in Vegas. There was also talk about putting it in Dallas at the Cowboys Stadium. But those things seem to be imperiled now, the spaced seating at football stadiums, by the surge. So the question now becomes, can you do a pay-per-view without a live audience? That question remains to be answered. It'll be worked out between Top Rank, ESPN, maybe even the cable operators.
Randy, I think that's a great point about the pay-per-view. As much as Bob Arum is doing, and you're going to tell us a little bit more about it, he seems to be doing everything right. But we still have the issue of a pandemic in America, certainly in states such as Arizona and California, which are heavily then visited by people into Nevada. They're going to come from all over the world, all over the country to be here in this location. It would seem to me, and again, I'm not a doctor, I'm just a journalist. It would seem to me that there simply is no way to make this safe if we get to September the 19th and things haven't drastically improved. And look, we're only talking, as you and I are here right now, we're only talking 2 months down the road. And I don't see it, Randy. I'd love to see this fight, but I think the chances are slim to none, and Slim's talking about leaving town.
Exactly. And listen, what a difference between Bob Arum and Monty Cox, who's trying to do his crazy thing on Saturday night. Bob Arum, as soon as we went into lockdown back in March, and he realized incredible team, and they do have the biggest promotional company in boxing. They sat down, they said, okay, this is going to be a long, how could we put fights on it? We do this. And they said, Commish, we'd like to get some fights on. What should we do? They all sat around and they said, it's going to have to be done without a crowd. Well, if you're a promoter, Ed, if you took out your promotional license, if I took out mine, we had no television, there's basically nothing we could do. We would have to rent a building, rent an arena, pay for the rental, pay for the lighting, pay for the security. We are out tons of money before we even paid a fighter. But when you're a Bob Arum and you have a contract with ESPN and they're giving you bucks and say, give us the product, we'll give you the money. Go figure it out.
Well, I think that shows something right there. ESPN, certainly you're putting credence to the whole boxing series itself with the biggest sports network in the world. But the fact that they go with Arum, and there's other promoters out there, to be sure, but I think it shows that Bob Arum had the foresight, once this thing hit, to be ready for it. He has the money. Let's not kid ourselves. But he also has you and I said this, and if Bob, any one of Bob's friends watches, I've met Bob. I know Bob. I haven't seen him in a very long time, and I have a great amount of respect for him. And he'll know what I'm saying. In boxing, there's a whole lot of thieves. Well, Bob Arum is the less thief. He may slide a little thing by every now and then, and he may try and get away with something every now and then, like everybody does in boxing. But he's a fairly honest guy. He gives you the honest answer. He's above board on so much of what he does. Randy, I think that's just it. Thanks to, if you want to say this, thanks to COVID-19, we have ferreted out and gotten down to the one promoter who may be aging at this point and may not be with us for a much longer time, but the one promoter who could pull this all together because he's a trustworthy guy in the industry. And that in itself is worth its weight in gold in boxing.
Well, first of all, I must tell you, I think Bob Arum is going to be around much longer than Bob is a forever kind of guy. He really is. As far as his honesty, I think he's proven it over the years.
I'm not trying to cast aspersions. I'm just saying, look, we all tell a couple little white lies about how good the fighters are, how good the fight's going to be. That's normal. But when it comes down to business, in the times that I've dealt with Bob Arum, and it hasn't been many, certainly not as many as you and others, he's been straightforward, upfront, honest, in your face, and takes no crap from anybody. And I like that about him.
Well, here's the thing. This Teofimo Lopez against Vasily Lomachenko fight, if you ask me, what fight do you want to see more than any other one? It's Lopez against Lomachenko. And just because of their names, Teofimo Lopez, Vasily Lomachenko, I call it T-Lo against V-Lo. And a few weeks ago...
Write that down quick. We got to get that trademark real fast before somebody grabs the URL.
Well, I got to tell you, when I said that to Lopez, he goes, T-Lo against V-Lo, man, I love that. And as he was even talking about it, he said, you know what, if we could just get T-Lo against V-Lo in the ring. But a number of weeks ago, Arum said, T-Lo is not very big on getting into the ring with no fight fans there. And he said, but I sat with him and I talked with him and I laid it all out for him. And representatives there, he understood it. Look, this is fights in boxing can be made because both fighters, the promoter wants it, the fighters want it. So where are they going to do it? It could be in a TV studio. It could be in that bubble where I think it is going to be at M. Grant, and they're going to put it on pay-per-view. I would pay for it. That is a pay-per-view fight. You give me a number, that's what it would be. I mean, this other garbage in Iowa, you're not getting 20 fights from me. You give me a number for Tilo against Velo, I'm buying that thing, and so will a few million fight fans.
Randy, let's extrapolate and go forward then. COVID-19 is gone in America.
Mm-hmm.
The vaccine is out. People are healing. Cases are down. Deaths are down. America is starting to return to a semblance of what will then undoubtedly be a new normal. The sports then start to return. Boxing certainly comes back. The fact that we have seen a lot of the ne'er-do-well promoters and such who have simply not been able to do anything here in this summer, in the pandemic time. Yeah. And we have a guy like Arum who is keeping the sport alive. Is there going to be much of a change, or is boxing so deeply ingrained in its own sea of mud that when everything comes back, we're going to go right back to the way it was before? There's going to be lousy cards and tomato cans and bad promoters, and unfortunately, weeding out won't do anything. Hopefully you put some of these lousy promoters in bankruptcy court and you never hear from them again, and some of these guys who claim to have, for instance, television networks or such and want to put on boxing events without having to pay fighters or anybody else. Are we just going to get back to the same old, or will there be a change?
That's a good question. I have a feeling things are going to change because the small club promoters really will not be able to run. They're not going to be able to run. They've lost their fan base, and it's going to cost them a ton of money. And you're saying when we get back to what? To normal? It's never going to be normal. Maybe not in our lifetimes. I don't know if it's going to be normal. It's going to be a normal. But I think right now, a fight promoter needs to be connected with a TV network, with an ESPN, with a Fox.
And there's not many left. There's only so few that you can actually get connected with anymore.
With the Zone, which could be in trouble right now. We don't know. And that's the whole thing. And there are a lot of big fights that right now are moved to the very end of the year, because as we sit here in the middle of this hot summer, nothing big that they remember. So what they've done with a fight, let's say like Tyson Fury against Deontay Wilder, a third fight, they moved it to December 19th. I would say that's far enough down the road. The virus gone. You got to have it in the arena. And December 19th, right, supposed to take place in Vegas at Allegiant Stadium, their brand new stadium. Mm-hmm. And a fight like that would put in 40,000 fans. It's a fight that has to have 40, 50,000 fans. It can't go on in a television studio just on pay-per-view. It's an event that needs to have fans. I don't see it happening this year. When it's going to happen, and you're talking about a vaccine, your guess is as good as mine.
March, April, May of next year. Yeah, we're talking about 2021.
Yeah, I mean, is a vaccine going to be available in January, in April, in June next year, the end of the summer next year? And even if it is, everybody's got to get that vaccine. This virus is going to hang around much longer than people thought. And it's going to affect sports. Look, baseball is opening up with a 60-game season. It's crazy. Baseball is a 162-game season. You can't have a 60. I mean, it's going to be nice to watch a little bit, but basketball is also getting going, and they're doing it behind closed doors. What's football going to do? Empty stadiums. This world as we know it has changed.
And that's, I think, part of the blindness that a lot of people are not looking at. They're saying, don't worry, we can ease our way into it. And as every sport tries to think that we're going to ease our way into it, well, if we're college football, we're going to kill all the non-conference games, which means we're going to continue to just hold on to your money a little bit, hang tight because we can still be there. They're baseball trying to say 60, and we're still wondering about what will happen if one or two players start a wildfire somewhere and all of a sudden there's dozens of players that are tested positive for COVID-19. The National Hockey League says it's coming back. The NBA is in this bubble, and already there have been some players who've tested positive before they've even entered the bubble now. The whole bubble thing kind of catches me. But it's with regard to boxing, we have to also understand, too, that we're not just talking about boxing. We're talking about the UFC. We're talking about mixed martial arts fighting, which is huge around the world. And I then have to wonder if now that people have gone time without it, let's just stick to boxing here for a minute and fighting. Now that they've gone a time without it and they've had other places to put their money and their interest, will they be as excited about coming back to boxing and fighting if the matches are junk matches, which you and I know makes up a good amount of the cards that are out there? And if you've got a great fight, like this one that we're talking about, Aram's fights, great. But so many other fights are going to have undercards, which are going to be boxers again, like what's happening in the Michael Nunn fight. 21-1 versus 1-12. Will people really want to get back and say, yeah, I can't wait to spend my money to get back to boxing? I'm a boxing fan. I say no. After this, you got to prove to me that you're back and you got to give me some real quality entertainment anymore. It's almost like there's been a cleansing, if you will, and hopefully that cleansing will take some of the junk with it. I don't know.
You know, it might be a cleansing, but I'm watching everything that Top Rank and Bob Arum are doing, and each and every show, they're giving us some of their top prospects. I'm loving their matchups.
Well, that's my point.
They are putting their fighters in rather tough. They're not giving us junk. They're giving us, you know, if this fight on Saturday night that we opened with talking about this junk fight, the fight on Saturday, these fast food hamburgers for a burger, it's the cheapest meat. I don't even want to think what the meat is. And Bob Arum's fights every
I see you've eaten at Steak and Shake. Oh, there goes that as a sponsor.
It's expensive steak, and we're loving it. Us fight fans, we've been starved for the fights, and what we're getting on ESPN, Arum doesn't want to put his fights on every single week and give us junk. He's giving us competitive fights.
Right to my point.
And it's going to keep doing that because he's signed so many top fighters that you're watching these young prospects. We watched a kid by the name of Clay Collard the other day. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, he's got a wonderful personality. A couple months ago, nobody knew Clay Collard. Now, the fight fans are saying, you know, I want to see more of Clay Collard. And they're going to see over and over and over again, and they're going to watch them develop because the more they work, the better they get. I'm loving what we see from Bob Arum, and the other promoters are now following that lead, and they're jumping in. You're going to see Oscar De Lopez, Golden Boy.
That's Golden Boy. Yes, we haven't heard much from them during all this, but yes, that's what I'm saying. Instead of America, instead of us having 50 promoters out there promoting a mix of boxing, and we're going to just stick with boxing here for a moment because UFC is pretty much individualized in so many ways.
And I'll explain that.
Okay. But to have that 50 promoters that we had before the pandemic started, to thin the weeds out, to get through here and have 10 or 12 promoters by the time we come out of this, when we come out of it, if we come out of it anytime soon, to give us quality fights, maybe even fewer fights, but ones that are actually more competitive, you got me. I'm right back in the game again, and I'm willing to do it. But after this space of time, I've called a lot of those junk fights. I mean, I've done a lot of them. You've done a lot of them too. We've been a part of these undercards. I don't want to be, as a fan, I don't need it. I don't want it. Take your money, go someplace else, because if you don't give me quality, I'm done.
Well, again, I don't see some of these small do it. You don't have television, you don't have fans, you can't do a fight. I mean, unless a guy just has a huge bank account and doesn't care about fight card, $25,000, $40,000 on a fight card and just blowing the money, then of course he can do it. If you don't have a television package, a television deal, kicking in some money, you cannot do it. You got to have the bigger. You got to have a sponsor. You don't have a sponsor, you can't do it. Aram has the sponsor. He's got ESPN. Top Rank does that with Aram. Oscar De La Hoya has it. The PBC, Al Heyman, even though they're not one of my favorite promoters, they have a lot of guys signed. They have a deal with Fox. You're going to be seeing them get back in the game. And they have all these guys have most of the big fighters signed. So what's going to happen? They're going to put them on, and the big fights, the A-list fighters, the Furies and Wilders like that, the T-Lows against V-Lows, it's going to be pay-per-view. You're going to see a lot.
We're going to go back to the way it used to be, sure.
With very decent undercards.
But here's another thing, too. I'd like to see, and then because we got to move on here, but the other thing I'd like to see is when we emerge into the new normal, is let's stop with the 8, 9, and 10 fight cards. Enough. I get it. You're trying to bring the young guys up. You're trying to fill out a card. But sometimes you and I have been to these events where there's 3 fights that are really good you want to see.
Yeah.
There's 2 fights that are okay, and the rest of them are pure bovine excrement. They're just, I get it that you want to get the kids out here and get them some fight. Get them some time. Do it in another forum, but stop making people pay for these interminable cards that just go on and on and on with real crappy fights. I don't want to see that.
Well, again, because it's the only game in town right now, I'll tell you that Aram has been putting on 4 and 5 fight cards.
There you go.
The other day, I think one of them fell off. I think he had a 6-fight card, basically all competitive. But for the most part, he's sticking with the main event, a co-feature, and 2 or 3 other 4-round fights. And the fans are loving it, and they're showing loving it. Now, can I just say something about UFC here?
No. Okay.
No.
Well, yeah.
No, the UFC is its own entity. Of course, it's mixed martial arts. They are their own promoter. They have their own ratings, their own championships. And they have a whole, basically, city to themselves in Vegas. It's called the UFC Campus. I and Jerry Cooney, about a year ago, given a tour of this UFC campus. Ed, I have never seen anything so beautiful in my life. Included is large television station and like an arena. And this is where they're putting on many of their fights. And they also have an island that they're going to. And many of the fights now, once I think things open up a little bit, they're going to be going over either the studio to put on their fights, or they're going to be going over to their island, like in Abu Dhabi. And they're just going to be putting on fights over there, but everybody's going to be medically tested thoroughly. Everybody, not just the fighters, the referees, the judges, everybody who walks in that bubble, because it basically is a long tube that you don't go through unless you're going into that enclosed arena.
Look, I'm not a big UFC fan. I'm just not. I'm a boxing guy.
I love it.
I know. You've gotten onto it. My best friend in the world has a couple of fighters that he works with and helps them with their PR, and he loves it. He's a huge fan of it, and we grew up boxing together, or as boxing fans. I'm not a huge fan. I'm not convinced. You're not going to convince me. It's never going to be something that I'm going to want to pay for or see, because to me, it's just... it's just brutality is all it is. It's the beating people into submission. It's people on the canvas getting constantly pummeled. There's no, and you know, I've gotten into this fight before with the people who are big fans. To me, there's no skill to it. There's no great training for it. You're getting somebody on the ground, and all you're doing is you are pummeling somebody. To me, that's not a sport.
But see, you'll get an argument from me.
I'm too old. I'm an old white guy. That's the reason why.
I was the one. You got to remember, I'm the one who back in the early '90s banned New York.
I remember that discussion we had back in the '90s when you banned it.
And as they changed their rules, I said, you got to eliminate this, you got to eliminate that. They wouldn't do it. But when they couldn't get into New York, when they couldn't get into Jersey, and Commissioner Larry Hazzard in Jersey said, you either get rid of these soccer-style kicks to the head, you get rid of the 12-6 elbow, where you come straight down. It's called a 12-6 elbow. The guy is on the canvas and down you come. You get rid of them, and you get rid of this and that and this and that, and you tweak it a little bit. You can come into Jersey. They tweaked it. I fell in love with it. They're in Jersey. They're all over the world. I love it. I love my boxing. Hey, when I'm walking through the city and I see two bums in the alley fighting.
Bums? How dare you use that word? The economically disadvantaged, damn it. Be politically correct, will you please?
There we go. Well, two anybody's fighting in, I don't want to see it. You know, I want to talk about an even matchup here. And if it's a thug jumping somebody, I'm jumping in to help that person who needs the help. And I think we all would do that. That's the only kind of fight that I don't like. But when it comes to the UFC and boxing, Ed, I love it. And I like what I'm seeing right now because they're giving us the product in the safest way possible, not the way they're doing in Davenport, Iowa on Saturday night when people are going to come down with COVID. You're wearing the mask wrong, buddy.
No, I'm wearing it right so I don't have to see UFC or MMA.
Well, then you actually have to stuff it one in each ear.
You're going to have to convince me as we go on and do the shows. You're going to have to convince me, and you're going to have to prove to me that it's not just people beating each other up for no reason. To me, there's a technical aspect to boxing that I love. There's nothing technical in MMA and UFC. I know it. People out there love it. You're screaming right now at the screens. And of course there is, you idiot. How can you not see it? It's there. They're wonderful athletes. I get it, but you're going to have to.
I used to think that way, and I'm supposed to be love it, and I will convince you. The age side at the UFC.
Nope. No. You're not going to get me to cage side. That's one of the things that I just can't stand about it. But I'll end the UFC part of this by saying, despite the fact I don't like it, there's millions around the world who love it. God love them. It's a sport that they love. I take nothing away from that.
Yeah.
Dana White and the people involved have been brilliant in what they've done from a management standpoint, from a money-making standpoint. You can't beat it. However, they still need to go give Stephen Colbert. No, I got that wrong. It's not Stephen Colbert. It's John Oliver. They need to go give John Oliver the money that he's due for coming up with Fight Island. Oliver did it, and they stole it from him.
Right.
On Last Week Tonight. They need to pay him because he did part of it, and he did it, and just because it's one of the best written shows in television. All right, let's finish out our ringside event here because we're going to do something which let's start a war. Let's go ahead and start a real boxing war here. Hawaiian shirts. I'm a Hawaiian shirt devotee. I did not wear one of my wild ones today. I have a closet full of them. I am a big fan. The problem with it is it just doesn't show up well on television, but maybe next time we do this show, I'll wear one of the more outrageous ones. I love Hawaiian shirts. I'm a huge Tommy Bahama fan. Yes, Tommy Bahama, we are open for sponsorship opportunities. Randy and I will both wear Tommy Bahamas during the show.
I love them. Love them. I got about 6
We're here. We're just sucking up for it. It's okay. This is not regular television or radio. We can get away with it. It's all right. And unlike podcasts, we can show the product. Matter of fact, Randy and I, if Tommy Bahama wants to become our partner, we will change shirts 4 times in the middle of the show just to have 4 different shirts.
I'll do it right here. I'll take another. Are you kidding? They are the
what I'm
greatest
deathly afraid
looking
of, and
shirts.
that's why I didn't want to say that. I was really afraid that you were going to say that and start something else entirely. I saw this the other day, and I put this up on my Facebook page as the ugliest Hawaiian shirt I've ever seen in my life, and I have some that actually go on that, go right into that area. Not many. I got rid of most of them. But of course, they take sports teams and they put them on Hawaiian shirts. This monstrosity that people are seeing right now on YouTube and Facebook is without question the single worst abomination I have ever seen of a Hawaiian shirt in my life. As somebody said on my Facebook page, Randy, it would be perfect for target practice. Because
you know what? I wouldn't wear it only because it's Red Sox. I don't root, I'm a New Yorker. I can't root for the Red Sox. I'm sorry. But I guarantee you, if that said New York Yankees on it, if that said New York Mets, as ugly as it is, I'd wear it.
Okay, which then brings us to Ed. How nice of you to be prepared and Randy to bring it all up thanks to our pre-conversations that we had about the show. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, the New York Yankees Hawaiian shirt as modeled from MLB.
Yeah.
Now, and again, I'm not a Yankees fan, but that's not bad, actually. It's got, other than the Red Sox, which had the big Red Sox logo in it, which did look like crosshair targets, this has got, the Yankee logo is in there in smaller pieces, and then you've got the NY crossed in there. See, that I think is a classy Hawaiian shirt.
I love it. I want one. I would wear it. You know what? I'd get like 7 of them. I'd wear one every day. People would think I was wearing the same shirt every day. Oh, look
and
at
here
that.
is the New York Mets shirt. Now, see, this is another abomination. This is not a Hawaiian shirt because there's nothing Hawaiian about it, yet they promote it. It has the Mets logo. It has a baseball. It has Old Shea Stadium. It has Citi Field. It has all these cartoons on it. But
it's gorgeous.
Gorgeous? God, it's god-awful.
No, that's the new normal. I'm wearing that. I'm getting one. I'm getting a couple of them. I love it.
See, the Mets shirt is terrible. The Yankee shirt is good. But then we figure, let's put them all side by side. And here we are.
Oh, stop with the Red Sox.
The Red Sox to the left, terrible. Oh. I have to call my friends in Boston with the Red Sox organization and say, please tell me that you didn't approve this, because this is an awful shirt. And I got to tell you once again, the Yankees shirt, if people haven't seen it yet, and if you need to, go out and find the YouTube and on YouTube, find this show. Once it's all done, it'll be posted on YouTube and you can see this. And I'd love to hear from people watching the show and then watching the show now and watching the show later if you would wear any of these. The Mets and the Red Sox shirt, absolute.
Well, I'll tell you what. If the Red Sox should win whatever kind of World Series they plan on having this year, that's the only way. If the Red Sox win this series, they win it all, I'm going to get me a Red Sox shirt and I'm going to wear it on one of these shows. Other than that, I'm not wearing one.
Okay, I get that, but the point of the matter is, would you wear this?
No.
Okay, but that's a Red Sox shirt.
But I win if they win it all. I'll wear it for one show here, and for very special events, whatever, I will wear it. But other than that, I mean, I'm going to wear my Yankees and my Mets shirt all over the place.
Okay. I got you down on that one because that's going to be a promise. If indeed they do make it to whatever the World Series is. I guess this year it's going to be called the Burrow Series, maybe than anything else. Reminder once again for Randy G. Let's go ahead and make sure we put up some of the information here. You can get Randy on his Twitter account at Commish Randy G, which is the best place to get him there. However, the best place to listen to Randy G still is, without question, you can catch he and co-host Jerry Cooney at The Fights, Sirius XM, Mondays and Fridays, 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And, of course, it's probably scattered throughout all the various Sirius XM channels. Any place else that you're involved in these days that people can get a hold of you that I missed?
It's channel 156 on Sirius XM, Monday and Friday.
Okay.
And during the COVID, we usually had been on 6 to 8. We're now on 6 to 7. They sliced an hour off the each of the sports shows. We're on 6 to 7 every Monday, Friday, channel 156. And then every single night, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Facebook Live. I do my Randy's Ringside.
See,
and
I knew that.
all you have to do is friend me on Facebook, Randy Commish Gordon, and I'm going to friend you right back, and then you can watch. Like tonight, I'll be on Randy's Ringside again.
And it's great when Randy wears the hat backwards. He puts the glasses on. He puts the whole persona on. You know, he's got the shirts rolling on that. He plays the whole game. It's perfect.
Lollipop.
It's the lollipop. That's right. How could I have forgotten the lollipop? So you can also friend him on Facebook and get it there as well. Randy, always a pleasure, my friend. We're going to do this again. We're going to try and do Ringside every single week here, our version of Ringside, to make sure that people can see us on YouTube and Facebook and also on the podcast as well. And we can hopefully start up some arguments. And maybe by the time boxing gets back, we'll actually have really good fights to talk about. One can.
I know we will. I want to see good fights. I know we're going to have them, and I know I want my Hawaiian Mets shirt, and I want my Hawaiian Yankee shirt. That's what I want.
I told you the Yankee shirt, yes. The Mets shirt, no. That is an absolute freaking abomination, and it's not even close to be. There's no trees in it. I mean, look, look, a Hawaiian shirt, and I'm going to go back one more time for the people who are watching, and if you want to, you need to go back and look at this. Hang on, I gotta make sure I find this here. Because the Mets shirt does not have anything tropical in it. Nothing. It's got no palm trees. It's got no beaches. It's got no pretty girls. It's got no coconuts. It's got no nuts.
Wait, I think I see the coconut in Shea Stadium there. There's a couple coconuts around third base. Meet the Mets. I'm going to sing the whole.
No, you're not. No, you're not, because I control everything, and you're not going to sing the whole thing, and you will. Although we can do our Casey Stengel impersonation, and we got this mascot, Metsy, they call him Metsy. That's all I remember Casey Stengel ever saying. It was way before me. Randy, always a pleasure, my friend. Take care. I'll talk to you real soon. All right.
It was great being with you.
You too,
Be
buddy.
safe.
That is Randy G. That is the Commish. We'll do it right here on our Ringside version of The Man in the Arena. Don't forget that you can find out more about us by going to all the major podcast platforms. You can go to LinkedIn. You can go to YouTube. Go to the YouTube channel. Go to my Facebook channel, whatever. And you can continue to watch the shows there as well. Matter of fact, I'm going to tell you about it as we leave. For Randy G. and everybody here, I'm Ed Berliner. Thanks for joining us. Rock on, my minions. See ya. Be sure to stay connected on social media with questions, comments, conundrums, you name it. It's at Berliner Speaks on Twitter, Facebook, and on Instagram. A great place to talk business and learn a lot more about what we do is simply check us out on LinkedIn. Just go there and search out Ed Berliner. A reminder that every single episode of The Man in the Arena is uploaded to YouTube. Just go to welcometothearena.com, or if you're on YouTube, search out Ed Berliner Media. If you would prefer to listen to The Man in the Arena, every episode is available for download on all the major audio podcast platforms. The Man in the Arena is produced by Entourage Management, LLC, and Entourage Media.